This Jon Jones, I like. See, like this, I like. I don't like the whiny little I like this.
What's happening, guys? Welcome to Good Guy, Bad Guy. I'm Chael, he's Daniel, and by the way, there's a thing out there called Club Shay Shay. Great big juiced up football player that you allegedly told not only could you deal with Bronk, you could replace Dana. Do you care to elaborate?
Yeah. We're going to talk about all that as the show goes on, and I'm telling you, we'll get into it deeply. But Chael, first off, before the show started, you about named one of your prior shows. Just remember, I'm the first black co-host you've had. So all you got to do is think that, and you know you're on Good Guy, Bad Guy, because the bad guy is the black guy, and that's me, Daniel Cormier. Chael,
Daniel, I'm so sorry. When I had my son, who is now 10 years old, Thero, my neighbor Rick, as a prank, sent out postcards to the whole neighborhood. Like you can buy an area for $500, and so he sends out a picture of me and my wife and a black baby. So that's like the funniest prank that I've ever heard of. So RC's first day at ESPN, as I'm making friends with him, I'm telling him this story about the postcard and the black baby, and one of the bosses at ESPN who should remain unnamed is doing this to me.
Stop.
No, because it's the baby, and the baby's black, and my wife and I are white. Like, I just kept going, and he's just like...
You're like trying to make it funny to RC. You're trying to make it funny to RC, and it never would get funny to RC. But it's awesome. That's the beauty.
He was cool, man. RC treated me I must say, he was cool about it. It was a funny story.
It's a great story. Chael, you know,
by the way, what goes on in your mind? Like when I open the show and I say we're going to talk Club Shay Shay, and you're like, oh, I like that, but we'll get to it later.
Because there's like a...
Is that a bit of an alpha move? Are you
No.
Are you flexing on me?
There's like a flow to the show, right? Like we've done this for a while now, and it's like, I know at times we kind of go off into that, but there's like a flow. And sure, that news was pretty cool. I had a great time on the show.
Did you hear when I called him a great big juiced up? Did you hear me say that?
He's gonna come after you. Khabib and them had more important things to say in regards to what's happening in mixed martial arts today. Khabib was talking about the best lightweight in the world. He said that is hands down Arman Tsarukyan, and went so far as to say, Chael, he doesn't think Ilia Topuria has a chance against Arman Tsarukyan. Agree or disagree?
Well, I got to tell you, I mean, start with, I really loved the statement by Khabib, and Khabib even put it like an 80-20. I mean, he broke it down a little bit. And don't forget, Khabib's not just some fighter anymore, man. That's a coach. That's a coach of a world champion. Like, Khabib's opinion really matters. I thought it was more of a loyalty play. Khabib remains very loyal to grapplers. Sambo, followed by judo, and of course wrestling, which he's made look very good. And I just thought he was kind of tipping the hat to Tsarukyan. I was having a hard time knowing how sincere he was being, as much as just putting over Arman. But I must tell you this, Arman is for sure the hardest matchup for Ilia.
Okay, so there you go. I agree. That's what I agree with you on. I believe it's the hardest matchup for Ilia. I just think it's hard to say Arman is the best lightweight in the world when Ilia is the champion and he just came up from 145. Like, that's why I find it hard. And we don't know anything but success from Topuria. In Arman's fights, we have seen at times he has struggled. But has Tsarukyan gotten better? Absolutely. Do I believe that Tsarukyan is the best and most competitive matchup for Ilia Topuria right now? Absolutely. But I don't know that I could say it as such a definitive statement that he's the best in the world, or that he would just go and beat Ilia Topuria. I think that Topuria is a special fighter. And I think that while Khabib was tipping his hat to the sport that we all love, wrestling, grappling, I also think that I don't know that he has or the best feelings for Ilia and the way Ilia operates, right? He's very brash. He's very forward. And we've spoken about this in times before, where a brash forward guy like that reminds you of the person that you had one of the most nasty interactions with, right? So you almost view them in the same regard. Now, while you respect the skills, I just don't know that he would have said that if I didn't feel like he does not have the best feelings towards Topuria. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yes. No, I see what you're saying. And by the way, I feel like I've seen that match, or at least that matchup. Good wrestling defense, devastating power in his hands. That would be Ilia versus his grappling heavy Tsarukyan. It was you. It was you versus Rumble. Yeah. I feel like that's that same style. And you had to close that distance. And I will tell you, as a guy at home watching, I was very worried about you when you stepped with an arm's reach. I mean, what would you do? If you were in Tsarukyan's shoes, how would you fight Ilia Topuria when he's putting everybody down? Every highlight you see is, you know, one guy falling after the next. That's the same spot you were in.
Well, those are the dangers in fighting a guy with that type of power, right? Great boxing, great power with takedown defense. Remember, when I fought Anthony, he was already a junior college national wrestling champion. He had a background in wrestling. Topuria is the same thing. You got to get close to him, and you got to, at range, you got to, so here's it. You got to be all the way in, or you got to be all the way out. So if you're far, because Ilia is a little bit of a shorter guy, you should just be kicking at him, not boxing. You're never in the boxing range. At least that's how I would fight a guy like that. I would kick at him. Then when he would decide that he wants to engage, I would try to take him down. That's how you fight a guy that possesses that type of power. Will it work? I don't know. I haven't seen it work before. But if I'm the coach, if I'm the guy that's trying to prepare a guy for Ilia Topuria, I'm saying, hey, on the outside, you're just blasting kicks at his arms. High kicks. Blasting him. Body kicks. High kicks. And then the moment he gets like, I'm not staying at this range, because he does pressure you, you start to kind of engage him in the wrestling to just really never find yourself in that boxing range, because in that boxing range, he's too dangerous. I was also asked, I was also asked about Ilia. Ilia seems to be on a collision course to Paddy Pimblett. But Arman Tsarukyan universally is considered the most dangerous guy. Is Ilia getting protected by not facing Arman now by the UFC? Or is it something else, Chael?
Okay, I got to tell you, when you say things like that, call it a conspiracy, but I feel like you're armed with some kind of information, like you've heard something, because I will tell you, they did that Paddy the Baddy face-off. They ran that marketing back. They pulled that off SportsCenter. Dana said if I was cage side, I'd never even put him in there. Yep. It felt to me like they were going with Tsarukyan. Tsarukyan cuts an interview last week, says that Ilia is going to be out till 2026. Now talking about himself, says, I've already waited too long. I'm going to try to get in there in November, December, even though there was no opponent named. What do you know about Paddy the Baddy? I have not heard Paddy the Baddy and Ilia associated in 3 weeks.
So here's what you just told me. Arman said he's going to wants to fight in November. Ilia is not back till 26. How long is Ilia going to wait? Like, how long are they going to wait for Ilia Topuria to fight when he fought in July, right? He's one of the biggest stars. This is why I don't think that the UFC, they're not protecting him. They're not protecting him. I just think that sometimes you go down a path, Chael, that you get so far down that path, you can't reverse it. It doesn't work that way.
No.
It doesn't work that way. I get what Dana said. I would have never even put him in the cage. I get that. I understand. But he was in the cage. He was there. And guess what? Every person that watched, and a lot of them did, saw him in that cage with Ilia Topuria. You can't reverse that. That's why, if he does get the title fight, that'll be the only reason. I don't think they're saying, like, hey, let's knowingly put him in a fight that we feel is a better matchup for him to make sure that our shining star stays bright, right? Let's polish him up. I don't think that's the case. I just think that sometimes you go so far and you're like, how do I get out of this? But then you can't. And Chael, you can't unsee things. You saw a big Paddy the Pimblett, a guy who looked tremendous against Michael Chandler, in there with the champion. They're pushing each other. They're arguing. They're fighting. You can't reverse it. There's no way.
I like that. No, I like what you're saying. That's actually a powerful line. Maybe he shouldn't have been in there, but he was in there. Maybe that should have happened, but that did happen. I agree with you, Daniel. I'm just telling you from my seat and perspective, they threw some cold water on that. They started to shine up Tsarukyan. Tsarukyan was next. Tsarukyan was next for the title. And then he was the backup fighter for the title. And right now, he's the number 1 ranked guy for the title. So if he goes out and he fights again and he wins, he finds himself in the exact same position, which is he should be the number 1 contender. That doesn't mean he wouldn't do it. I mean, I'd want to stay busy too and stay active. But when I'm trying to get in somebody else's mind, I just don't know that Tsarukyan is going to let Paddy cut in front of him. I don't know.
Yeah. Isn't it amazing, though, how quickly things change? Because Arman Tsarukyan was in L.A., didn't fight that fight. They said he would not be next. Definitely not next. He goes and comes up the backup fighter, makes the weight, looks phenomenal on the scale. Then we all start going, well, he is next, right? Because Ilia is now the champ. Islam's gone. This guy should be next. He's number 1 contender. The idea is that he's next. But it just changed. Because after January, it was like, this guy is going to have to fight. There's no way that he fights for the belt next until he fights someone else. But he stepped on the scale. He was a backup fighter. And now it seems as though he's next. But at the end of the day, I believe it'll be Paddy. I think it just... You cannot unsee things, man, and I think that's the problem. But speaking of that, right? Speaking of Ilia Topuria, dude, this is bad too. This is bad for Arman Tsarukyan. Very bad for Arman Tsarukyan. Poor Arman, dude. I like the guy. He's such a great guy. What do you got? Islam goes on where he was talking and says, "I don't really want to fight Khamzat Chimaev. I don't want to open any door of conflict between our people. I beat Jack Della Maddalena. I would then want to fight Ilia Topuria. That's my preferred super fight." So Islam Makhachev goes and becomes the welterweight champion. His eyes are now set on Ilia Topuria at 155. Chael, what then for Arman Tsarukyan? And is that the move, right? Islam Topuria or Islam Jack Della? Islam versus Khamzat.
The way the story goes, and I'm just going to repeat it, this is locker room talk, but I believe it to be true, right? I mean, you can't keep a secret. You can telephone, telegraph, or tell a fighter. The word's going to get out any way you want to do it. Allegedly, the way the conversation went is Dana said to Ilia Topuria, I will accept the 45-pound title back. I will put you in a 55-pound title fight. I need to know you are staying at 55. There's not another jump. This is the one. And he agreed. Allegedly, Dana said the same exact thing to Islam. If I bump you up to 70, I'm taking the belt off you, going to give you an opportunity up here, but you're staying at 70. We're not doing this back and forth kind of like Amanda Nunes did for a little bit. And to my understanding, that was agreed on. And I know those boys want that to be this huge fight, but it's not. It could be, and there's some ways that you could build it. But Islam and Ilia is not this massive fight that people are trying to make believe it is. It could, with a little bit of time. I'm just sharing for you. Those guys are a little bit too close to the trees to see the forest. Ilia Topuria versus Paddy the Baddy does a bigger gate than Ilia Topuria versus Islam right now. You put a belt around Islam, maybe we're having a different conversation. Hey, can I tell you one more thing if I'm being a little worried?
What?
I do not believe that Islam, should he have success at 170, is ever coming back to 155. I think he thinks he's going to, but he is going to experience life. He's going to experience training camp. He's going to have such a better experience at 170. I think that's the day he realizes, I'm not coming down. I'll stand my ground. If this guy wants to come up, another conversation, but I'm not going back. And I do not believe Islam ever weighs 155 pounds in competition again.
Once I won that heavyweight belt, I could not dream of going back to 205. It was only a matter of time until I ran out of time that they took the belt from me. It really was. Like, when John and Gustafsson were scheduled to fight, I was like, okay. I was like, let him fight for the belt. They're like, wait, okay? I was like, yeah. I was like, what happens next? They said, well, the moment they start fighting, you're not the champ anymore. I go, well, the moment I got the heavyweight belt, I was not the champ anymore because I was never going back down there. It's very difficult to do that, to go all the way back down whenever you
I used to tell people that about you. I say he was 211 pounds at the Olympic Games in 2008. He does not want to weigh 6 pounds less than he did. I mean, I used to tell people, we're not getting him back. He's now a heavyweight.
Yeah, dude's a heavyweight, man. Dude's about to ride off into the sunset, man, just collecting checks. Chael.
You know, I thought Stipe was going to beat you.
The first time?
Yeah, I thought Stipe was going to beat you. He was just too big. I thought he was just
young enough. I was just young enough. I was so old those last two fights.
Thursday. The open workout. Friday was the weigh-in, the Saturday's the fight. Thursday, after your open workout, I was on Stipe this whole time, all through Ultimate Fighter, behind your back. I was telling people, he's just too big. Daniel, after your open workout, you took the microphone and you said, if you guys got any money, go bet it. I've never lost a wrestling match at heavyweight. I've never lost a fight at heavyweight. I've never even lost a round at heavyweight. And I sat back and I'm having flashbacks of like you versus Mako. And I'm just going, oh my God, he's right. Nobody going to beat him at heavyweight. That's his number. That was the day. I was on the Stipe bandwagon for 5 months and I switched to DC at the last minute.
Yeah, I hope hey, back then they didn't ban you from betting, so I hope you listened and went and put some money on it. Okay, Chael.
I don't follow the rules.
So Chael, back to my appearance on Club Shay Shay last weekend. So I was asked about Jon Jones, right? And I left him off the Mount Rushmore of fighters. I left him and Anderson Silva. To that, Jon Jones didn't respond. DC, I was a high school champ, JUCO national champ, youngest UFC champion, greatest in MMA history, a lifetime of lost victories and sacrifice, and this guy wants to write it all off as steroids. Honestly, it's insulting, but I can't help but laugh, knowing it was God's given ability that made him feel so inferior. That's Jon Jones. That was his response.
Daniel, they're all like that. I mean, I could bring Barry Bonds into it or McGuire. Like, everybody goes down that road where they cheat the rules because they somewhere had an insecurity. They somewhere wanted an edge, and then they come back and go, but I could have done it anyway. It's like, well, maybe, but you didn't think you could. If you thought you could, you would have not have put a synthetic chemical substance into your ass. It's just one of those things. And Jon really gets upset about it, that DC. He doesn't deny the hit and runs. He doesn't deny the cocaine allegations. He doesn't. That's the one. That's the one that bothers him. The picogram and the couple of failed tests. And I mean, I'll just share with you, that's a very common thing with athletes. I do believe he could be right. I do believe Jon could have been the champion of the world without steroids. But somewhere within him, at some point, he doubted that. And that's the life he chose.
And so here's the problem, right? I only answer the questions asked to me. That's what I do. Guy asks me a question about Jon Jones, I tell him my truth. Reality is this, though. I will always go above and beyond to credit him with being A, toughest guy I've ever fought, B, the hardest fight, one of the smartest fighters in the octagon. I give him all the credit of being one of the best fighters ever. But I'm not going to say, oh, yeah, you're one of the 4 greatest fighters of all time, when, like you said, Chael, over the course of that career, there was a moment where you made a decision to do something you weren't supposed to elevate you inside of an octagon in a fist fight. Look, I also say this, Chael, he's not the only guy I fought like that. He's just the only one I couldn't beat. I never took a drug test until I got to the UFC. So it's not like these guys just weren't doing anything. It's just he was the one I couldn't beat. Sure. So I give him credit, but the guy is he's so weird. Like, he's such a weird guy that even if I will talk about him, because this was 20 minutes, bro, of me talking about him and polishing him up, right? Telling him all the great things about what he does in an octagon. It's the negative thing that he latches onto because that's what he wants to do, right? He wants to latch onto that negative thing. When in reality, I feel like I was very fair. I don't have to be fair to Jon Jones. Like, I don't care. He doesn't have to be fair to me, right? But to say made me feel inferior, Chael, you were a high school state champion. I won 3 and a world medal in high school, and I made the United States world team when I was in high school. You were a JUCO national champion. I won 2 of those and became an NCAA All-American and finalist. Then I went on to make 2 Olympic teams and win 6 U.S. national titles. Chael, then you became the youngest UFC champion in history. Absolutely. I was a UFC champion too, in 2 divisions. So it's like, how can you tell someone they're inferior when all the accolades are kind of the same, but better? They're just better. Like, how do you call somebody inferior, Chael?
Well, but Daniel, I've actually been very surprised at the ground Jon has made. I mean, I've heard people get behind him and support him. I remember when he said, I did coke all weekend and still got in the ring and fight you, and the crowd goes crazy. I mean, I'm just sharing, it's a really interesting thing if he did go the other way. Let me use myself as an example, but you saw Brian Stan and I together a week ago. We joined you on the Wayne Show.
Yeah.
I reached out to Brian. I probably got these texts on my phone. I could read them to you. I said, man, I'm sorry I cheated. This was out of nowhere. I hadn't talked to him in a couple of years. I said, I'm really sorry I cheated. Like, I just wanted him to know. Here was what was going on and all the character flaws and the port. But here's what I did, and I cheated you, and I want to tell you sorry. You saw how tight we were. He accepted my apology right away. All he needed was to hear that. And frankly, I needed to get off my chest. And I'm telling you, if Jon would have ever come out and owned that, but he's taken the other approach where he kicked you in the head, which is a devastating thing to do, and then telling you have no right to complain about it. It's like, Jon, I never complained. I knew you were juiced. It was the athletic commission that called you on it, not me. Yeah. I never said a word. I kept my mouth shut like I did for all these other guys that were juiced up. They flagged you.
Yeah, I didn't tell on you, bro. You got caught. We all did the same test. You're just the one that had stuff in like illegally inside of you. So, yeah, it's just a weird deal, man. Because, and guess what? I'm okay with us never being okay. Like I don't care. I really don't care. I answer the questions asked of me. Okay.
But Daniel, I feel like, maybe I'm not saying this, I feel like that was his bridge back to you. Everybody would rather go through life getting along than having an enemy. And I feel as though when he comes out to villainize you, to make you the bad guy for answering a question, I mean, he got flagged by the State Athletic Commission and the United States Anti-Doping Agency. We're not pointing the finger. I kept my mouth shut when I fought him too. I knew. Yeah. I had the same secret. That's the reason I knew. I mean, I'm just sharing. It does surprise me. Like, I don't think there's any way to make up while he continues to tell you, hey, you shouldn't care about that. So what? I cheated and they took my belt. You should have mailed it back to me. I don't really understand the argument.
Yeah. Plus, like, and also I didn't. Like, and I can put that on everything in my life. I never did. So it's like it's hard to accept he did that. But it's all good. Like, it's all good. That's water under the bridge. Hey, Jon wants to be called the forever champion. He said that now he should be called the forever champion because of all of his accomplishments in the UFC and for how long it's been. Now, chill. This Jon Jones, I like. See, like this, I like. I don't like the whiny little I like this. Like, okay, call me the forever champ because you went through 3 decades of fighter. Like, okay, this Jon Jones I like. Now, are we going to call him the forever champ? No. But that I kind of like. This guy, this would be kind of like if Islam went heel and just goes, all you guys suck. I just keep beating your best fighters. So what? I like that on Jon Jones.
Oh, I love it. Hey, you remember the hardcore title?
Yes.
Yeah, remember? But it was like a real belt, and then they like taped over it. It just like they put caution tape over or something. You know, they couldn't even wear it. He had to hold it, so like the scotch tape and stuff didn't fall off. I would love if Jon went and got himself something that said like forever champ and started carrying that belt around. That's funny to me. I like forever champ. I claim to be the linear champ. As the guy that made Jon Jones walk out of there with 9 toes, I claim to be the linear champ. That's funny. I'm actually into that. Jon hasn't screwed up an interview in a while. He's actually been red hot.
Pretty good.
Yeah, when he's got no pay-per-views to sell, he can find a way to make things pretty interesting.
Chael, I want to ask you this. Would being the UFC president be a dream job for Chael Sonnen?
My goodness.
Or, listen, Chael Sonnen.
Yeah.
Or Ilia Topuria. Or Israel Adesanya. Or every human being that's ever accomplished anything in there. Of course it would be. So I was asked that question. But here's where people don't understand, right, what Dana does. Being a promoter, Chael, if you and I were to promote fights and only promote fights, we are tasked with making people watch. Yes, we could do that job in anything because Bob Arum did it, Don King did it. All those promoters from way back in the day when all they had to do was tell people to watch were able to do it. But the UFC is not that anymore. It's not just promoting. Dana's not just a promoter anymore. He doesn't have to just go out there and go, watch this, watch this, watch this. Those layers that this job entails are where we, the athletes, would get lost. That's what we can't do. We don't know the business. We don't know all these things. So yes, if the UFC goes, we want to task Daniel and Chael as co-promoters of UFC 250, we'd be like, absolutely. And then we get up there and we tell everybody why they have to watch. But in the back, television rights deals, pay-per-view sales, getting rid of pay-per-view, dealing with ESPN. We have no idea how to do that. So sure, everybody would love the job, but we can't do the job because of all the other things that comes with being a promoter today of one of the biggest sports organizations in the world.
It would take 5 people, 5 good men to do the job that Dana White does. I believe that your kids are going to be taught about Dana White in textbooks in college someday. He went from a fight promoter, which he thought was a cool thing to say. He's a street kid from Boston. He takes over international business at 32 years old with no massive background. He thought that was cool to say fight promoter. So we all keep saying it. He's an executive producer of content. He is a CEO. I mean, I fully agree with you. And you and I saw a little bit of this dealing with The Ultimate Fighter and seeing what his schedule is like. And it's, sitting down and telling people the story as to why we put the fight on and what the date's going to be. That's the easy stuff. It's all the stuff that goes on around it. It really is a shocking thing. And I only share that because so many people think like I would love that life. The only reason that life is cool is because he thinks it's cool. That's what he wanted to do. But there is nothing about that that's easy.
I always tell people when they talk about these guys, these commissioners, Adam Silver and Roger Goodell and Dana White, it's like they're making a boatload of money in those jobs. But the amount of time and effort and energy they put into that job, it's insane. You think you're busy now. Imagine that, bro. Like Dana tells sometimes his schedule, and I'm like, it's impossible. I don't know how many days a week he's staying at home because he's so busy. So yes, every fighter, right, or any person that has aspirations would like a job that would be the most grand thing in the world. But you can't do it. It would take, like you said, 5 people, 2 guys to promote the fight, Hunter Campbell to do all the negotiations, and then all the other people and all the other. It would just take it would take 5 people to do that job. So, and I can't imagine the UFC without a Dana White. So it's crazy.
If you ever wanted to sleep at night, you would need about 5 people. You want to know the fight that I wanted to see and we never got it, but I wanted to see Dana versus Vince. And they started it, man. Those guys started going at it and finally decided, let's team up. But that was the war right there. That was the battle I wanted.
Even if we would have did Battle of the Billionaires. Remember Trump at Battle of the Billionaires? Whenever they didn't actually fight, but then they got to shave Vince's hair? That was crazy. Okay, so, now speaking of that job, right? Now that we've kind of gotten to that, what would be your dream job if not for becoming a fighter, Chael?
Oh my, what a fun question. I love this game. What would have been my dream job? Geez, I don't know if it would have been a dream job, but I imagine that I would have gone into construction. I imagine my father was a plumber, then he went on to build houses, and so I kind of grew up on job sites and reading blueprints and looking at dirt and imagining where the buildings are going to go. So I imagine that's just the direction that I would have gone. In fact, that's what I was planning to do even when I was a fighter. I just thought I could move it out a little bit. You know, you couldn't be a professional fighter. I mean, you might qualify for that, but you weren't going to be able to support yourself. And that was the direction that I was headed. And the industry kind of changed around me. But I would love to hear your answer. What would you do? Wrestling coach?
Yes, but Chael, back when I was growing up, bricklaying was the family business for all of the men in my family. And I did it one summer during my freshman year of college. And I was like, yo, I'll never do this again. It was the hottest, most difficult job in history. Because in Louisiana, Chael, your body's little like rivers. And they're just mosquitoes and bugs. And it's 100-degree humidity. And it's 110 degrees. It was the most miserable job I've ever had in my life. And it honestly is why I am here today. Because I was like, there's no way this could be my living. Like, to be that exhausted, that tired, that dirty, and do it every day, no chance.
And Danny, I'll tell you this, and bricklayer, what an honest day's work. But I will tell you that I have time to think. I might have gone the direction of Shay. Like, I always did believe if my athletic abilities diminished, if I got weaker or I got injured, I probably would have joined the NFL. Like, if there was a time that I couldn't have done it. So I might still do that. I might still join the NFL. I've had talks with Hollywood. I go out, I double Denzel. Like, there's a few options for me, but I would change my answer. I'd have probably done what Sharp did. I'd have probably played football.
I did that, and then I would have my dream job, though. Honestly, I think we got a dream job, Chael. We get paid to talk. That's crazy. Like, the fact that we've known each other since 1998. The fact that you and I are here today, 27 years later, talking and making the money that we make is absurd. Who manages the hiring process of these places, Joe? Because we keep doing it. It's like you and I, Oklahoma State, Oregon, wrestlers getting to do this. It's crazy. That's the dream job. Like, we talk about fighting. It's crazy.
We did get very lucky. Hey, by the way, a moment ago when you were reading off Jon Jones's credentials, do you know who beat him in the state championship in New Mexico?
Who?
Matt Riddle.
He lost to Matt Riddle?
Yep. Now, Jon came back. Jon was champion, but yes, a previous year, I believe his junior year, Matt Riddle was the champion.
Chael, by junior year, my junior year in high school, Chael, it was like, hey, Chael, you know who could wrestle me by the junior year of my high school? You, Mark Munoz.
Yeah.
Guys that were like number 1, 2, and 3 in the country. Those were the only guys in the country that could compete against the guy by the time you were a junior in high school. You know, we were all wrestling in a circle against each other at the biggest tournaments. Hey, how about Brock Lesnar?
That was nice that you included me in that, by the way. Thank you. Yeah, what about Brock Lesnar? Are we going to cover that?
Beat Brock? Do you think I would have beat Brock?
You told Shay, okay, that Brock would have been.
You think I would have beat Brock? I want to know if you believe I'd have beat Brock.
Oh, heavens, yes. I did. And I even thought Brock was always very respectful of you because Brock in his heart is a wrestler and he knew he was standing in front of an Olympian. Like he knew what his accolades were and he understood. Even when he gave you that little push, I mean, that wasn't the push that you give a guy that you want to fight. That's the push that you give a guy who you want to get a little hype for because you respect him. Nothing wrong with that, but yeah, you'd have worn Brock out pretty fast. Not to mention, you'd planned for him. I mean, in the form of Cain Velasquez, you'd gone through a training camp for Brock. When you told Shay that would have been the safest fight for you, that was a true statement.
I feel at that point, I was still at a point in my career where I would have been able to manage him pretty good. But yeah, that interview was long, it was fun, and I got a lot said, and it was received very well as people receive our show every week. Chael, another episode of Good Guy, Bad Guy in the books. Time to go drop Luna to school. We will see you guys on Thursday. So, for Chael Sonnen, I'm Daniel Cormier. Peace.